So let's talk Seder, you guys.
Okay.
Judy Heller, I have to let her in real quick. So there are a couple of things that I think are going to be important for us to look at. Hi, Judy. I love your background as always.
Thanks.
And one of the things that I think we should start with is to ask some basic questions before you start preparing for your virtual Seder. The first question has to do with, in general, who are the people that you're doing it for? Is this going to be an in-person group? Is it a hybrid of in-person and virtual, or is it virtual? Are you going to be having children at the meal? Questions of that nature. We'll go into that some more in a minute, but we need to have sort of an overview before we can start to look at the right resources to help. As you see, and just over the next 45 minutes to an hour, we'll look at these big overarching questions that we should look at. What are some of the technology issues we need to look at as far as how can we be prepared the best way possible? The table, how are we supposed to set up for what it is that we're hoping to accomplish? The Haggadah, how are we going to tell the story that we want to tell the way that it needs to be told, however that may look? There are a lot of different options here. And that's what I'm going to look at last, which is the resources, which is, what is the digital content that you can include that maybe you haven't thought about that would be interesting and make your Seder a lot more fun, right? Interesting in a way that we don't normally get the opportunity to do. So these are some of the basic questions that I would ask, starting with, this is a picture from last year that somebody had made that is a Seder plate for 2020, right? These are the things that she felt needed to be on the Seder plate. She said a mask symbolizing our gratitude for frontline workers, water, a reminder to wash our hands, matzah, because the grocery store is out of bread and flour anyway, candle in memory of those we've lost, something green, a reminder of the persistence of spring, and video chat to stay connected to one another. And I love this image and I love the idea because it reminds us that even though the story of Passover is ancient, there are ways that its symbolism is very relevant, no matter what time, no matter what age, no matter what era, in very interesting ways. So I think Robin's hopping on. Hi, Robin. Hi, Robin. I'm going to put the chat up again, just if people want to know what the file is, if you're looking for it later. So my question on this was looking at this image from last year's Seder plate. What are some of the general questions that we want to start thinking about as far as moving forward? So for instance, this has certainly got a coronavirus quarantine theme to it, right? So are we hoping to come up with a special theme about this year's Seder that's even in addition to and beyond moving out of Egypt in that narrow space? Are we going to try to look at another issue, whether it be this reopening or vaccinations or whatever it may be, the gift of life for the memory of those we've lost? There are a number of possibilities. Going to the top of it, I was starting, Robin, by asking the question, is it going to be in-person, virtual, or hybrid? Because that'll determine some of the questions you'll have. Another important question has to do with the age of your participants, because if you have a very young group of people, you're going to have a very different type of experience. You may want to have more interactive opportunities, or perhaps your Haggadah will be geared for non-readers more than adult readers who are trying to participate. There's a question about the tone that you want to set. So when you think about a Passover Seder, you can think of it as fun. I know that, there are a lot of people who, at least in my family growing up, it was the holiday where everyone wore jeans, right? Because normally we're all dressed up from going to synagogue, but whenever we had Seder, like that was the sign that this is like the dress down holiday, because we're not, we don't have to do what you're telling us to do anymore. And it wasn't about having necessarily the pillow to relax, but it was being able to dress down. So the question is, do you want it to feel relaxed and casual, or do you want to bring out the fine china and, be reminiscent of seders that you've had with loved ones in the past? Or perhaps it's going to be more about fun and games and hide and seek with little ones, if you've got toddlers, for instance. So another thing, Judy, I'm looking at you, is that I know Judy has done in hers before, that she's focused on teaching as an element of a Seder by having people who are not Jewish come and wanting to provide information. So another theme, if you will, or a different tone, is one of education and trying to provide not just the actions of the rituals, but the story behind why we do that and what they symbolize beyond just the 4 questions and little things like that. Another question to ask is the length of your Seder. Do you want it to go on as a normal Seder would be? Is it going to be shorter because it's virtual? Does that mean that you're going to be leaving all of the different parts in, or are there certain parts that you think you should be going through more quickly? I know growing up, I didn't know there was a second half of the Seder because we just never got there. Is this going to be one of those years? I don't know. Or do we want to go through something a little bit more quickly? Another question is, are you going to be eating while you're doing it? So are people going to go through the Seder and then get off of the call and then have their dinner separately? Or are you going to try and eat together? Is that going to be part of the experience? That will definitely change the meal as well, or change the Seder as well. And another possibility is the food, because I know, last year, some of the things that our family had done was that everyone in our family made our traditional dishes that we would always do and brought some to each of the houses of the people who normally would participate. And so, while we were at each other's own homes, we were bringing to each other's homes those foods and the smells and the, recipes that we've always identified as part of our family meal. And so that was kind of a neat thing as well. And you might want to consider that. Are you guys, just looking at the group that's here, are most of you thinking you're going to be doing a hybrid or a virtual or all in person this year?
Virtual.
Sure, virtual.
Well, I don't know if it'll probably just be like Jerry and I. So I would imagine we'll just be the 2 of us. And on the first night, at least. The second night, of course, we'll do the second Seder. But so I guess it'll just be the 2 of us in person.
Yeah, I think for us, we'll probably have Karen and Sam virtual, and it may depend on if I've had my shot yet, whether or not Lauren will be comfortable coming over. So we might end up with a hybrid.
Yeah. Well, good. I think that all of these resources, whether you do it virtually or not, are going to be useful for whatever it is that you're doing. Especially Robin, I think you'll be excited to see some of the resources. I know that you've put yours together in the past.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's look at the technology a little bit. So there are a couple of questions that I would address. The first is, how are you going to do this if you're going to be having any type of virtual or hybrid? Are you using a Wi-Fi, or are you going to be connected through your Ethernet? Has anyone thought about that?
Well, I wish we could get Zoom together.
Do you get on Zoom through?
I have Zoom.
Well, so with the Zoom though, are you getting onto Zoom and the internet through Wi-Fi, or are you doing it through like a connection in the wall or to the router type of thing?
That's the
I don't know what you mean.
Okay. Long time ago, way back when I was in college, they had a thing called Ethernet, which is like this cord that kind of looks like a telephone cable, but it's bigger. And it's what goes into your modem now or router. And if it goes directly to your computer, then you're not using a Wi-Fi connection, but you have a hardwired connection that's going to be more stable for when you have information coming back and forth. So for instance, if you are leading a Seder for 20 people, you may want to look into using a connection rather than using your Wi-Fi in case you have trouble and you get frozen or something like that, or get dropped off your call.
Ah, okay, okay.
Thank you for thinking about that. Because my desktop is Ethernet, but I'm thinking the dining room table is lovely, but that means I'm on Wi-Fi and
It could
my
also
laptop
be,
freezes sometimes.
it could also be that you can add a longer Ethernet cord. I know that, Rabbi Sobo bought a 100-foot cord that she uses from her Ethernet to go to her laptop, because that's a stronger connection when we're doing things online.
Where did she get that longer cord?
I think you can get it pretty much anywhere.
Oh, really? Okay.
Start on Amazon, just the easiest, but if you don't want to support Amazon, go to Staples or any, Comp USA or whatever
Okay.
type of, or Micro Center. I mean, it was funny when I was in Kansas City recently, my mom has her modem right next to her computer, but had not plugged it in. And so she was using the Wi-Fi and it was literally inches away from it. And I'm thinking to myself, can we fix this? I mean, all I had to do was put it in. She's like, oh, I had no idea. So, if it's an easy solution like that, that's going to give you more stability, I would recommend looking at it. Unless, if it's just two people and you're not concerned about the Wi-Fi, I wouldn't, if you normally are fine with Zoom, don't worry about it.
Okay, okay.
But it sounds like you guys, I know that we're using Zoom right now. It sounds like you're pretty comfortable with Zoom. That's great.
Is there going to be a Zoom program?
Yes, second night Seder, definitely. Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay.
And
we
Ruthie, if
need
you want to
to-
join anyone else for first night, I told you, you've got company.
Okay. How do I find out about that?
Well, you can join me, or you can let me know and I will see if someone has called the office and said, we want to have somebody join us, because we've asked if anyone does.
Okay. I will be glad to.
Wonderful. Good. I
Thank
love
you.
it. So there is also the possibility of using Google Meets. So last year, that's what we used for second Seder, I believe, because it had a larger number of participants for free that we could have. Depending, again, if you're doing this at home, I think you can have up to 100 for a Google Meets for free. I don't know any one of you who are planning on having that large of a celebration. I think that the regular Zoom, if that's what you're comfortable with, is probably going to meet your needs. But if you have any trouble and you need to find out how to set up a meeting, I'm happy to sit down with you and set that up. I know for my mom, she's good at clicking links, but she can't establish a meeting. So if that's a problem, please don't hesitate to ask.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So one of the things about Zoom is that you have the chance, if you would like, to use a virtual background. What I wanted to show you is that there are virtual backgrounds, if I can get to it. Well, let me click on it. So I'm trying to do something very funny, which is I'm using a virtual background right now, which is why it's probably not going to let me do that. All right, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. And if you can see, hi, everyone. This is me leaving through, the open sea out of Egypt. This is one of the virtual backgrounds that you can get for Passover. Another one, I believe, is a cup of wine, and each one of them, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you're interested in leading your own Seder and having some fun virtual backgrounds, the URJ has provided those, and that's a link that's in the document I just gave you the address for in the chat.
That's awesome.
It's fun, right? We figure we got to make this fun. Okay. So here we are back here. If you are planning on using something that is a Haggadah that is virtual, you will need to figure out if you will need more than one monitor. Because if you're leading the Seder, you want to be able to see the people who are going to be on the call, but you also are going to need to see large enough the words of the Haggadah that you may have downloaded. So I see that, Miles, do you have a question? Oh, okay. I saw your hand. You're good.
Good question, Miles.
How do we get the Zoom background?
Sure. Let me get the address for you. Just a second. What an excellent question, my friend. Okay. So in the chat, this is a link that has a lot of different things in it that we'll get to. And at the bottom of the sheet, it says virtual backgrounds when it comes to, like, I think section 4, the bottom, and you can download those. So in this picture that you can see, this was what my Seder looked like last year for our second night. That week I had gotten new internet, a new internet provider, and this new monitor. That has proven very useful. But this new monitor was a way for me to see everybody's faces while we were interacting, as well as you can see my laptop to the left, so that I could see the screen of the Haggadah and move things forward as I needed to.
I don't see any of it.
What?
I said, I can't see any of it.
Uh-oh, Ruthie, what happened?
I don't know. Okay, I mean, I'll just listen.
Let me see if I can, it looks like you might have turned your video off. Is that possible? Because I
What?
don't see you either.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
I can't see you either. I'm wondering if you might have turned off your video.
I might have, who knows?
There you are.
Yeah.
I'm on?
Yes.
Okay, I see you. I don't see me.
Okay.
Okay. Chat.
Oh, you just changed it
I'm
back.
getting all mixed up on this.
What'd you do?
Yeah.
If you can, put it back where you were.
Let's see.
Okay. There you are. Keep it there.
There.
Whatever you did.
Oh, okay.
Don't touch
Okay.
anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michelle says, don't touch anything.
So if you if you're the one who's going to be running the Seder again, and you're possibly doing it through a program like PowerPoint or Keynote, I'm using PowerPoint right now. You'll want to look at Zoom to see how to do that, so that it's not the first time you're trying to do that evening. What I'm doing right now is something that's a beta program, which I got so excited about Friday night, which is that under screen share, where it says share screen, if you put advanced screen sharing on there, one of the first options you have is to use a slideshow as your virtual background, which is what I'm doing. And so you can have yourself on there, and you don't have to have yourself, but you can be a big person or a little person. You can be in the corner, you can be in the middle.
Wow.
So,
I like the smile.
yeah, so you're able to do that. You might want to play around with it. The other thing is simply sharing your screen if you have a PowerPoint or a Keynote on there. And if anyone, again, has questions on how to do that, I'm happy to try and help you with that.
Okay.
I'm serious. One of the other things is making sure that if you are going to be using technology, do you have a stand for it so that it doesn't get toppled over, if you will. If you need it to be held up at a certain height, or you have more than one at a time and you want to make sure it's there. So for instance, right here, I've got my computer on a stand so that it's at the same height so that I can look at you straight and in the eyes. Whereas if it were down on the table, it would be a very strange kind of an angle. So again, depending on what you want or how it's going to allow you to eat your dinner, if that's what you're doing, you may choose to raise it up, to put some books underneath it. However, you might want to do that. Another thing to think about is a microphone. If you need something so that you can be heard better. I don't know if you can tell that I just moved it closer to myself. You may be able to hear better, hopefully, because if not, that means it's not working. But I'm going to move it a little bit out of there. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, it was important to try and get a microphone so that everybody could hear. But if you have a headset or something, that works as well. Not necessary, but helpful in the long run.
It's really helpful if you have a dog that barks.
Yeah. Yes. I agree. So then, of course, we have our table, right? I'm now in the wrong place. So I was right in the middle of that. Setting the table. So it's a little strange to set your table for Passover when there's not a whole bunch of people there. I know it felt that way to us. This is before we had, of course, all of the technology on the table. But there are a number of questions that you would probably want to ask yourself. Again, trying to see, do you want to include things like modern symbols or music into the evening? It's not allowing me to click on these things because of the fact that I'm using it as a virtual background. So I will put these into the chat. There are some advantages and some disadvantages to the way I've done it, apparently. All right. I'm going to share these hyperlinks with you. First, this is for the ritual items, which is, again, part of the, if you do go to the very first item that I gave you, which was the download for the PDF, you should be able to just click on all of these and not have to use all of these. But I'm just showing you that in here, if you click on it, there is something that says learn about the Passover Seder plate and the 6 parts of the Seder plate. It tells you what each of the things are, how you might want to make them, and what their symbolism is. There's even a little video to help you out if you would like. And one of the other things that it suggests is on this one in particular, it suggests if you want to include an orange, and they will explain why elsewhere. I'll get to that when it comes to modern symbols. The music, this is kind of fun, which is that the URJ has created a playlist of Passover music. So as you're preparing or you have people joining you, you might want to listen to some music that is of the Passover persuasion that is not necessarily just, Manish Tana, but something more interesting, hopefully. And that is the link for that right there. if you don't know what a playlist is, it's a pre-arranged series of songs that you just have to click on them to be able to listen to them. So it's sort of like what's on your, musical playlist, and everyone gets to hear what you've put together. In this case, it's what the Union for Reform Judaism has put together for Passover.
I think it's a sales.
Trying to, I don't know how to turn it off.
I think it was a sales call.
I just want to turn it
Yeah,
off.
that's all.
Thank you.
We're going to go to the modern symbols. Many of you may be familiar with the symbol of an orange. Has anyone heard the story about the orange on the Seder plate?
No.
Yes,
No.
I've heard it, but I forget what it symbolizes.
many versions.
Yeah. There
And the
are,
right one.
what?
I said, and the right one when Susanna Heschel got mad about it.
Right. There are, what I just sent you is 8 modern additions to the Seder plate. In this one, they say an orange for LGBTQ plus equality, that they now say there is as much room for lesbian in Judaism as there is for crust of bread on the Seder plate. So some people have crust of bread, but Heschel adapted this to place an orange as a gesture of solidarity with the marginalized community. There's also a cup of Miriam, which honors women and their role. There's a potato for Ethiopian Jewry. There's fair trade chocolate or cocoa beans for labor issues. There's a banana for refugees, a pine cone for prison reform, cashews for the troops, and an acorn for indigenous land. So you may end up with an enormous platter instead of a Seder, and that's up to you. So again, I would look at the themes that you're trying to speak to for the holiday. If you're looking specifically at something that's looking at inequality, you may want to look specifically at some of these issues, especially with LGBTQ rights or fair trade and things of that nature. And then there's also the Yorje has done a lot. I was really impressed as I was putting together my stuff. I found that they already had done a lot of it, and so I'm sharing a lot of their things. This next one is a Passover checklist on your preparations. Putting that in your chat. And it says, hosting a Passover Seder, use this checklist to prepare. And it includes looking at things like technology, doing things for ritual items and some of the blessings, especially if you're trying to clean your house. Traditionally, you would, go through and use a feather the night before to get all of the crumbs and to eliminate the chametz from your home. And there's a blessing that you would recite. So they've got information on that if that's something that's part of your experience. They've, on the checklist, they have your pillow, your Haggadot, your Haggadahs, something to hold your matzah, the cups of wine, afikomen prizes, things that you may not be necessarily thinking of, but you should be thinking of because they're all going to be part of your Seder, virtual or not, as well as all of the ritual items that we've already talked about. Any questions so far?
Covered a lot.
We
Yeah.
have so far. We haven't gotten to the big stuff yet, though. And this is sort of like the basic how-to. And the big stuff is, what are these cool extra resources that we're getting to, right? So it starts with us looking at the Haggadah. I just clicked on the wrong one. And so again, I put telling our story and also making decisions. Yes, Miles. Are you saying goodbye? Okay, goodbye, Miles. It's good to see you. I like the orange on your shirt. It's my favorite.
Take care, everyone. I'm going to go field children.
Perfect.
Bye, Dan.
Thanks for joining. So telling our story, Haggadah means telling. It's our story that we're sharing. And so we're told that we're supposed to experience the Seder as if we ourselves are going out of Egypt. And so there are a lot of opportunities for how you might want to do that this year that may be different from ways you've done that in the past. And it means making some decisions about how you want to lead and what Seder you'd use. So it may be that you want to use a digital Haggadah, which again means looking at the Haggadah on either your iPad or a computer or a TV screen, whatever it might be. Or you may say, I want all of us to have the same Haggadah, but a real book. And so you might want to choose, whatever that book is. And maybe you've never had one because you go to someone else's home and they've always provided the Haggadahs. So you should know that Temple still has Haggadahs if you want to borrow one of the ones that we have. That's still an option. Okay, so we have the regular books, we've got digital books. So some of the things to look at. One, do you prefer a physical book or a handbook? So if you aren't using digital, there is another option, which is to have a handout. So if you wanted to create something and print it out, you could do that. Or if you said, I really like this Haggadah, but there are a few things I want to add, and you can supplement your Haggadah with the different types of handouts. And if you look at the bottom, it says different types of themes. There are different handouts that you can use that will focus just on these themes, and you can insert them and include them in something you've already put together.
Are those listed in the URJ also, or not?
Let me see. Hang on. I will get those for you. I have stuff from a couple of different places. So let me see.
Okay.
This one is URJ. Here. This is the social justice reading. Refugee supplement. And inequality.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Hang on while I get the last one. Okay. Right. So should everyone have the ability to move through the book at their own pace? That's going to be a choice of a few different things. So if you have, again, if you have a physical book, then yes, people could. Or if you have a physical book with a supplement, people would be able to as well. If you download something from the internet, even if you are sharing it, people would have that download that they could look at themselves. And so if you want them to be able to go through the pages at their own pace, that will determine as well which Haggadah you choose, if it's important to you. You may want to look at language. There are some that have Spanish as well as English, or instead of English that are together with Hebrew. There's some that have a lot more Hebrew than others, and there's some that are entirely in Hebrew. Again, you're going to choose based on the people who are going to be there. You'll want to see if you're hoping to include more visuals. If you also want to include videos, obviously that's something you could supplement, but it's easier to supplement if it's something that's already being done virtually. Okay, so let's look at these many resources, including our Haggadah choices, because this is the cool stuff. And actually, I'm going to see if I can share instead of doing what I'm doing right now. So if I share, it'll allow me to actually click on a lot of these links, which is what I would really like to be able to do. Can you guys see anything yet?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. All right. So the next slide. Our resource. We've got children's Haggadahs in particular. If you have children at the Seder who are of the ages 2 and 3, the URJ has already compiled an option right here. So if I'm clicking on this, I'm trying to click on this, I should say. It's not bring it up for you. Defeats my purpose. Okay. Putting this in your chat again. Okay. There's our chat. Okay. So I'm going to try and move that into my screen so you can see it. Okay. Is that showing up for you? No.
It
I'm assuming
started to.
it started to, right?
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
And it disappeared on us
Yeah,
as it does that. Okay. And
can't get it on here. There it is.
okay. So the URJ has put together this, setting the seam and something together with headscarves on each person's head and, banging. And it's as if they themselves were there. And there's, a twinkle, twinkle sounding song about the ark. All sorts of fun things. Let my people go. So if this is a group that you will be leading and you want to not make it hard on you, there is this that has already been done. They also have one again for little children as well, for 5-year-olds, which is also cute. It's a little bit different. So there's some sort of semblance, but there's more reading than what you would have had before. And there's some pictures too. But the URJ has those. And in the version that I sent you before, that first link will have these hyperlinks so that you can go to it.
Oh, thank you.
My chat. The next page. These are all children's Haggadahs. So again, if you have children at your Seder, all of these are Seder possibilities, most of which I think can be downloaded, some of them for free. You would want to double check, like in this one, Family Haggadah. So this is not for free. This is something that you would purchase, but it is a real book, and that's important to know. There are a number of different things. This one obviously is an early childhood program, the first one, a PJ Library Haggadah. PJ Library is a reading program that provides children with a free children's book every month. And so I'm imagining that theirs is going to have a lot of storytelling in it. The Family Haggadah, this is a published book that's been out for years, as is the Family Haggadah 1. the Kfeller Haggadah is put together by an online group that has all sorts of writing as far as they have bloggers who will write about, Jewish parenting or being single. It's just an opportunity for connecting. I think you'll find that this probably is a little bit more hip, a little bit more modern in this Haggadah. There is a different night. And now this is one that I've used a lot in the past. I'm going to open up this hyperlink. They have something where if you've already purchased the book, at least this is what it was for last year, then they will allow you to download the virtual edition, which I purchased like a dozen of them, so I was thrilled.
Yeah.
So it's great to have that option as well. And again, there's some more on here that when you go to this program, you'll be able to get the hyperlinks. And if not, I can get them for you. There are a number of virtual Haggadahs. And look at what some of those resources are. So they're downloadable Haggadot for purchase. These are some of what those are that you see pictures of, where you can do a multiple license on it. So if you have 20 family members and you want them all to download the version so that they can move at their own pace and have it on their own devices, and you don't need to learn how to put something up on PowerPoint, that's an option as well, which is helpful. Danielle is a Reform community in Israel, and they have one that's available for free that is all in Hebrew. If you prefer the Hebrew, or there are parts of the Hebrew that you like that you want to copy from those pages, you could. Momentum has put together a Quarantine Seder companion, which obviously focuses on it being a quarantine. So this is what they've done. And they answer some of the questions about having your own Seder, getting creative, some of just the general questions that you might want to have. They also have, some similar things. So like the 4 children and COVID-19 is a reading that they've included. You may want to include that in your Seder. So these resources you don't have to use as a whole, but you can pull from them. And again, either create your own or use them as supplemental. Yeah, so it's not a whole Haggadah, but it does have some resources that will be helpful. Chai Mitzvah has a virtual model Haggadah. Chai Mitzvah is an adult education program that people have signed up for around the country to do learning with other Jewish communities. So I imagine it's more geared towards adults, but they have a free Haggadah that's downloadable that they've used for teaching purposes. Again, if you're looking at education, that could be really useful. I'll show you what that looks like. As you can see, it's for free. You would just add it to your cart and download it. But it's this was used at the most recent model Seder. So I haven't actually downloaded it, so it's not going to show it to you.
What's it called?
Chai Mitzvah. Chai as in life. And the different night that I told you about, if you had previously purchased it or if you do purchase the physical book, this happens to be my favorite one. And you might recognize some of the fonts and stuff because I've used this before and I've included parts of this in last year's Seder. It's really more information than you would ever need in a Seder. Like you would never do the entire thing ever. because you love people more than that. Um, and it's really for choosing options. There are things in here that I really love, and opportunities for discussion that are really rich. The 4 children, for instance, they've got pictures in the middle. Here they are. They start with sort of the contemporary 4 children, looking at different types of artwork, but also then looking at different images of the 4 in different generations and different environments. And so you can have a conversation sort of about what that means. I happen to really like that, especially if you're a visual person. There are modern interpretations. So for instance, on page 54, I wonder if it goes directly to it if I can. No, not that good. It talks about our obligation to see oneself as if we had personally gone out from Egypt. There's some questions that help us to personalize it in our own way. There are also things that talks about, readings and writings from more modern, some are historians, some are poets, some are liturgists. In this case, it's talking about something from Israeli minister Natan Sharansky, and different, experiences of people who, in this case, the Soviet Jews who came to Israel. So it's talking again about, from every generation, all of these different experiences of leaving narrow straits and going to the land of Israel. So again, looking at themes of how you want to make it relevant is an important question to ask. And this has somewhere in it my favorite thing, which is the Afghani onion, which is where I got that from.
Is that the green onions and you kind of hit each other or whatever with the green onions? Okay.
Sure is, and it's my favorite. Except I got to tell you, when the first time I tried to do it was when Grant, my nephew, was in, he was little, he was really little, and he was in grade school, I think, and somebody hit him in the eye with the onion and he cried, and it was really sad. And so for a while we didn't do it again.
Well, I know when my son was down at OU, he went to Hillel for the Seder there, and he called me and said, "Mom, they had green onions. They were hitting each other with green onions. We had never heard of it before."
It's a whole nother level of fun, right? It's all sorts of silly. Now, Haggadot.com is the richest of all of these different options. Before I get to it, I'm going to go to the next page first. This is the URJ virtual content is very rich. I mean, they've got a ton of stuff, including, as I said, the virtual backgrounds, but also links to various musical renditions of different songs. So if you are not good at music and you want someone else to sing the song Dayenu for you, you can click on it, and it might be a little video, it might be fun, it could be the retelling of the story in a 4-person act, like whatever it is. They're virtual resources so that it doesn't have to just be a book or a page, but it's really a great opportunity to introduce new things. So we'll come back to that. There's also 16 Haggadot that are suggested by the URJ. I found that most of them were actually the books. That's why I put books in parentheses, not the downloadable ones. As well as Judaica.com also had a number of them as well, some of which were able to be downloaded as virtual. So I'm going to go back to the more fun stuff. And this is our virtual stuff. In Haggadot.com, I put in here specifically these 5 because those are ones that have been done in advance. So if you, again, are not interested in building your own whole Haggadah, you don't have to. You can go on there and find some of these Seders and check them out and download them whole kit and caboodle and be done. What? Oh, I didn't hear what you said. So this is like the comedy Seder. It may take up to 30 seconds. The good thing about this also is that if everyone has it, everyone can connect on their own devices, but I don't know if that's true. I already did sign up. See if it likes me. There's no fee, it's free. So it says, yes, you're signing up, but you're not paying for anything. Although they do request that if you are able, that you want to support their work so that they can continue to make this content. I don't know what's going on with this page. Maybe other people are working on this right now too. But here we go. Just as soon as I gave up. Let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Those are my children. So if you come to this, you'll see. Here we go. They've got this really fun table of content. Some of these are more modern, courtesy of Beyonce Seder. Beyonce, I'm assuming. The sorting hat of Passover. I assume that has to do with Harry Potter, Monty Python, Seinfeld, all sorts of things like that. So again, looks great. If you're interested, Dr. Seuss, all sorts of stuff. Again, probably not the type of thing that you would use it all for. But lots of good resources. Okay. We have the minimalist Haggadah. Okay, Jonah, I'm online right now teaching. Thank you. For some, this has been so much easier to do during a pandemic. For me, not as much. A traditional Haggadah, a liberal Haggadah, Jubilong, I believe, is for a younger generation. It's more kind of hip and modern. But the thing that is really interesting here is this Haggadot.com, where these are coming from, because what's being done here, people have created them already, which is what I was pointing out with these comedy ones. This is something that someone put together, right? And you may create one that everyone else wants to download too, which would be fun. So you can make a Haggadah. You can see how this goes. Are you able to see in here if I play?
Mm-hmm.
Passover is supposed to be about freedom. We join with family and friends to drink 4 cups of wine, eat some matzo ball soup, and sing 129 verses of Diana. But despite all the potential of the holiday, sometimes the Seder itself can make us feel, well, lost. We're all so unique. So how do we bring our full personalities to the table? I mean, wouldn't it be great if we could embrace tradition and start a conversation that reflects our interesting, hilarious, modern, multicultural, thought-provoking lives? We can. Let's start with the Haggadah and make it our own. Haggadot.com is like a big scrapbook for sharing, cutting, and pasting from thousands of people's great ideas. First, start with one of our templates, liberal, traditional, or secular. Second, customize it. Choose from our library of readings, artwork, and videos from across the spectrum of Jewish life. Third, add your own content and share with the entire community. Fourth, invite friends or Seder guests to collaborate before the big night. Fifth, print at home, transfer to your tablet, or even order some custom printed copies. And best of all, the site is free, though we appreciate donations to help us keep going. Now let's get started.
Rabbi, what is the minimalist Haggadah? What, is that just like a shorter service, a shorter Seder, or what exactly does that entail?
Let's look at it. Okay.
There's some.
I like it. So the minimalist Haggadah obviously is, minimalism. It's very little on the page, right? Um,
"23 pages. That looks short."
yeah, it appears to be a very, I don't want to say truncated because I don't know that it's leaving anything out, but it looks like it's certainly using minimal readings,
Mhm, mhm.
I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it just, it has the 4 questions. It's like bare bones kind of thing. But this one has 5 children. Not sure how that works. Yeah, I haven't looked at that one as much. Let's look at the Jubilong one. I think that's going to be a little bit more creative. It likes me now. It's not taking the whole 30.
Yeah.
What's that? Jews belong. Jew belong.
So
I hate that title.
so you can see they have some modern things on there. The elephant at your Seder. Okay.
Wonder what that is.
Because it says there's an elephant in the room, which is so again, as I said, it says hate is hate. It's very, I would say it's very youthful in the way that it's written. Probably, I'm assuming like the college age crowd is probably going to relate to it best when they use things like the more subtle, I don't really mean it when I talk crap about Jews kind of language, that it seems a little bit less formal.
Yeah.
So I think that's what this is about.
Okay.
And then again, so for trying to be more inclusive of community members and people who are not necessarily Jewish or who are Jewish adjacent, who are not themselves Jewish, but raising Jewish children or in a Jewish home or in a relationship with someone who's Jewish, this is a blessing that they've included, which is a nice thing. So again, you can pick and choose different things that you like from some of these other Seders and put them in, or Haggadahs, and put them into your own.
Huh.
Huh.
Yeah,
This is good.
Let's see. I think some of it is traditional, but it looked like some of them are a little bit different. So, again, it has to do with a belonging sense and trying to be inclusive. And so in this one, it talks about, these words are dedicated to all who died. It's not just specific people, but this one says because they were loners, because they acquired friends and drew others to them, because they drew attention to themselves and got picked on, because they took risks. So these are very real, very modern reflections that I think are, again, very much more indicative of this generation. If you look, there's a little plus sign and there's a little star. And the star, I believe, is to say, this is one of my favorite things. So if you want to create your own, you can go back to the ones that you've starred and add those in if you want, or look and have that. I believe that if you hit the plus, you're going to add it to a Haggadah that you're going to put together.
Oh, okay.
It's easy. It's as easy as that with adding this clip. So if you go through them and you say, wow, I really like that reading, that's all you have to do. And I think it's really kind of a cool tool, because the idea of creating your own Seder probably is very overwhelming, would be my guess. But when you go through here and you see, look, I just have to click here and click there, not so scary.
Is that like that on all the virtual Haggadahs down there under that
Yeah.
Haggadah.com? They all have the plus and the, okay,
Yeah, anything from Haggadah.com is in that realm.
okay.
Where did that go? So if you go, you can start with a template. You can browse their clip library. So for instance, you can see these different Haggadahs. This is a coloring book Haggadah. I love that. There's, as I said, some of these other ones. This is an ongoing compilation of favorite content. So this probably has some good stuff in it.
I had no idea all of this was out there.
Right?
Neither did I.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, Ruth?
I'll say. I wish I'd known about it 10 years ago.
I know. I like the idea that you could collaborate with people though, because if you say, you know, I want everyone at the table to write a reflection about something they're grateful for, you know, 2020 going into 2021, or what it's like.
Not much.
Well, what it's like to be on 2021 side. You know, talking about vaccines or whatever it might be, that you can have people write in their own things and create this and put it into the Haggadah in advance, which is pretty cool. So if you're one of those people who doesn't be put on the spot, it gives you a chance to think about it. That's me, by the way. So they've got all of these different things. Seder does Seder, guess lend me your ear. That's cute. Coloring the Jerry Seinfeld's Passover stand-up introduction. This is adapted from the Yada Yada Haggadah.
Now, is this the one that you're showing now? Is that the one that was the favorite that from the 2020? Okay.
20 table topics for your Passover Seder. Another thing, if you're planning on doing dinner and you're looking for conversation for people to have over dinner, if that's something that you want to sort of make a little bit more structured, you can ask some of these questions, like what do you consider your promised land, or how would you define heaven on earth, or, you know, freedom is a central theme of Passover. When in your life have you felt most free? If you could write an 11th commandment, what would it be? How many non-food uses for matzah can you think of? Discuss. That could be interesting. You know, I like number 20, the word Seder means order. How do you maintain order in your life? Or number 19, what is something you wish to cleanse yourself of this year? A bad habit, an obsession, or an addiction? All of these things really help, again, to personalize the experience of the Seder. And if you come up with an idea that you want to do something based on a theme, obviously you can take little bits and pieces that would work towards that theme and make it your own, even if you don't find one that's the theme you're looking for. You know, if you want to do a recovery from addiction themed Seder, you've got, again, like number 19, you've got pieces of this that you can add to it that would be meaningful, right? A secular humanistic Passover blessing. So the Society for Humanistic Judaism doesn't necessarily include the name of God, because that's not part of the theology that they adhere to, but they say, instead of blessing God for, requiring us to light the candle, they say, blessed is the light in the world. Blessed is the light within humanity. Blessed is the light of Passover. Baruch haor ba'olam, right? I mean, it's beautiful. It's not the same as the tradition, and some people may want to add it to it if they feel less comfortable than changing it. But we can see that there's a lot of liturgy that other groups beyond the Reform movement have created that could be really meaningful for us as
Yes.
well. So this, this isn't just about being Reform. There are a number of traditional elements. If you go with a traditional Haggadah, that if you wanted to include in your Passover, you'd be able to. Interesting phrases for learning more. I don't even know what language it is. All over them, Judeo-Greek, Judeo-Arabic, all sorts of things. Yiddish, Western Yiddish.
Western yours.
Yeah, a lot of these, right? Yeah. Greetings. How would you say, good holiday in Judeo-French for Bordeaux? Bon fête, I'm assuming. I don't know. They need to have something where it actually pronounces it for you. That'd be even better. I would appreciate that one. Bringing your mental health to the Passover Seder plate.
Oh, my
Beautiful.
God.
Right? These are really important. This is my favorite resource, in case you can't tell, is this haggadot.com. I just know that it can be overwhelming, but hopefully you're seeing that it doesn't have to be, because you can just push on that and put it into a new Haggadah, right? And if you want to create more than one Haggadah, because you have two different ideas and you want to use one for next year, one for this year, you can make how many Haggadot as you would want. So if you have one that's more funny versus more serious, you could do different ones.
Does it take you in the order in which it should be, in order of the service? So when you're choosing, it's like that's taking care of one part and you can go on to the next. Okay.
Yeah, so if we go to Kiddush, okay, so 4 things which make you feel happy or free. If you add this, it says what section. And so it has all of the different sections of the Seder, right? Because there are different,
Okay.
Seder means order. And
Yeah.
so it's going to go through the whole order. Like the one we'd seen before was an introduction, but this is now talking about Kadesh.
Okay. Okay. Oh, that's great.
They really have done an amazing job of this.
Mhm.
Don't sit on the afikoman. Don't sit on the afikoman. Don't sit on the afikoman.
That's cute.
And this, we're familiar with this, right? We use this.
We are.
Yeah, we recite this in our liturgy on Friday night services, this standing on the parted shores of history. So it's nice when some of our favorite lines that we're familiar with appear. I love that. Excuse me. Again, if you're talking about teaching, here's, historical perspective. This is another humanistic reading. A hunger Seder. This is by Mazon, which is there to help feed the hungry and advocate on behalf of those who are without food. And so again, another addition, if you wanted to even make just a supplement to go with the Haggadah you already use, why during the Seder do we focus on hunger, right? Why isn't it better for local charities to feed people instead of the government? Different questions that they have posed about this. In this one, we encourage you to ask 4 questions of your own about anything. Ask them of yourselves and of each other. Can we be humble enough to admit when we do not know something rather than pretending to have the answer, right? Can we be gracious enough to answer another's question without shaming them for not knowing? It's the interaction of one another and how to ask questions. I love that. the four adults, the angry adult, the ashamed
Really
adult,
good.
right? Like we're so focused on these children, but the fearful adult, the compassionate adult, and here, look, we have, Abraham Joshua Heschel and Anne Frank in there. Beautiful. Martin Luther King in here as well. The Haggadah can be as modern as you want it to be and still be age old, right? The lessons and the meaning are eternal and specific at the same time.
Hmm.
That's wonderful.
Oh.
I'm not sure where this came from, but that's different.
Donald Trump?
I got nothing. I didn't put it in there.
But it was beautiful.
It was perfect. It was the biggest ever. There's a skit. So if you want to have people act out the story of Pharaoh and Moses.
You're a conflict counselor. That's funny.
I love that. There are some that are really clever. And if you guys have things that you've created, I know, Judy, you love to do writings as well. You can put it in there and people will find you and be able to quote you. That'd be kind of cool. Modern plagues, obviously really important. A song by Maroon 5 is now a parody. I'm not even sure how that song goes. Dayenu for a pandemic. So very specific. What are your thoughts about these? Are you feeling like they're accessible?
They seem to be when you're doing it. Hopefully when I'm doing it, they'll be as accessible.
I mean, Linda, I see a lot of really cool opportunities to have really good conversation with even just one other person,
Yeah.
or two other people, and make it a meaningful Seder.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be a big production in order to have the depth.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that the last time I updated my Haggadah, I thought I was going to use this, and
Forever.
I chickened out. I got frustrated, but now I'm really glad you're walking through it again, because I think it really gives me more of a sense that I could do this.
You can do this,
So,
especially with your experience in advertising and whatnot.
and I don't know why I got so scared of it, but this was really helpful. I appreciate it.
I'm glad. I know that there's still a lot that hasn't been answered, a lot of questions, I'm sure. But again, I hope that you will go to, let me stop sharing, that you will use the chat to download, if you want, this list of all these different resources, because I found it very helpful. And even just going to the one through Reform Judaism that has a lot of these in there as well, because again, I think we're all finding the same resources to be helpful. I mean, who's not going to find Haggadot.com useful?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that the Reformed Jewish movement put that out there. I'm glad they did, because we want to expand and share all of these. And, I'm sure the conservative movement has put something out as well. I haven't seen it, but a lot of the places that are listed as sources in the books through Haggadot.com, I bet you could go to those resources and then find more from, if it's from the humanist, group, or if it's from the conservative movement, or if it's from, the Jewish Indian group from, wherever in India, wherever it may be, whatever their the group of people who've written this, they've obviously got a stockpile of other types of writings that you might find interesting that haven't been included in this.
Mhm. Oh, you've given us a lot of info.
Also,
So you still have several weeks before the actual Seder. My hope was to give you enough time that you didn't feel like this was overwhelming, but at the same time, not put it before Purim because that just felt way too early.
Mhm.
all right.
So if you still would like, if you guys would like to go over what you've done or some more of this stuff in another session, I'm happy to do that. Or if you want to call me and have me go through something, I'd be happy with that as well, just to let you know in advance. Because nothing
Okay.
would give me greater happiness than to see you be able to take control over your own Haggadah.
This was great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
There are arms creeping in through the water.
Yeah.
Yes, there are, aren't there?
Aw, so cute.
Oh, so Ethan wants you to know that he lost his tooth Friday night.
Oh,
Oh,
That's
congratulations, Ethan.
awesome.
wonderful.
Whoa.
Oh, he sure
Such a
did.
big boy. Wow.
And did the tooth fairy come to visit?
She did. You told me she didn't. Were you just messing with me? All right. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and conclude this, but please, again, be in touch. And if anyone wants me to do some more of this, I'd be happy to. And I will record. This is recorded. I will put it up onto YouTube for anyone who would like to see how things were done again. To go
Okay.
over.
Cool.
Okay, swell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
So
you.
good to
Thank
see you
you.
guys.
All of you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night. Good night, Ethan. Night, Linda.